Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here from Computer Headquarters, and this is my finale video for my Tri-Charge Stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer here in 3.26 Mercenaries League, Path of Exile 1. I've made quite a few videos about this build, this league, and I don't think I'll be making any other videos about this build for the rest of the league. It's so good that I think it's kind of time to retire it. I'm probably going to experiment with some other funky, like really funky, like animate, guardian animate weapon, minion-y type stuff with this build. I'm not expecting that to go anywhere. If it ends up being amazing, yeah, maybe there'll be another video. But in any case, I'm going to take a different approach to this video than what I normally do. So what I normally do with my videos, especially lately, is like I have really detailed notes about a whole bunch of interactions and mechanics and stuff like that that I go through. And I've even started making PowerPoints to stay organized when I'm explaining everything. And then I'll go through, I'll go through the tree and, show you stuff on there and things like that, right? But I'm going to actually try a different approach, and I'm interested in hearing your feedback. So if you've never watched my videos before and you like how this went, just tell me that. If you watched my other videos and you want to compare and give me feedback if you like this approach better than my previous videos, I'd love to hear about that as well. So just a quick rundown of what I'm going to be running while I'm talking about the build separately. So I'm going to record all this, and then I'm going to just voice over and explain the build separately as this is playing in the background. Of course, we got an Uber Adziri, we've got a Chayula, we've got an Uber Elder, and an Uber Cortex, which gives us a fear that we can run or roll or whatever. We've got pretty much all the most important Ubers. We've got Uber Maven, Uber Eater, Uber Exarch. We have Uber Cirrus or Cyrus, however you want to say it. We have a Simulacrum. We have a very high rolled Ziggurat that we're going to do with Rogue Exiles. We have a very difficult Valdo's map here with Foil Light of the Meaning, 3 to 4 Tormented Spirits, and Feared, of course, in Union of Souls. And then we actually even have one of each of the echoes. Echo of Loneliness, Trauma, and Reverence. And man, I haven't even never done those bosses yet, and they are expensive. I think this one was almost 5 divine for one try. I hope I don't get destroyed. I literally don't know the mechanics. I'm just going to jump in and assume I just kill it real fast because I do 1.4 billion damage. Spoiler alert. All right, and then maybe I'll swap between some mercs in between and stuff, but let's just jump in and start fighting stuff, and I'll start chatting over it. All right, first things first. What is the Tri-Charge Stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer? Well, I think you probably already know it's a Slayer. That's pretty obvious. The skill we're using here is Frenzy of Onslaught, not to be confused with Frenzy. Frenzy of Onslaught is a melee attack skill where Frenzy is only for bows. And then we're Tri-Charge Stacking. That's not a tribute stacking, it's actually charge stacking, meaning power charges, frenzy charges, and endurance charges, the 3 main charges you can get in the game. We're stacking all 3. The way we're doing that is with the Slayer Ascendancy. It has Masterful Form, which says that your maximum endurance charges is equivalent to your maximum frenzy charges. Well, we can stack that with the amulet called Badge of the Brotherhood, which says the same thing, but it's power charges to frenzy charges, and it trickles down. So all of your power charges become frenzy, become endurance. So meaning if you have 13 or 14 power charges, you have 13 or 14 endurance charges, right? And frenzy. All of them are equal. So that's kind of the gist of it. And as you stack more and more, you get stronger and stronger. What kind of content is this for? Well, this is what I'm demonstrating here, a bunch of bossing. That's a great example of what this build's really good for. So bossing, Ubers, any really difficult T17, but especially Valdo's maps. The trifecta of things, the pinnacle 3 things you want to do in the game: be tanky, do big damage, and have big clear, which I also always say being fast is part of big clear. This is tanky and big damage, not so much on the big clear. I have a lot of previous versions of this build. You can check out my other YouTube videos in my YouTube channel, and I'm not going to go over those too much, but I do plan on making a more entry-level video in the future at some point. So I'll just keep that mentioned here, and I guess the more people that comment that they want that, the more likely I will be to put that out sooner than later. Okay, really important to talk about is that there were huge nerfs this league. to two major components of this build. Ephemeral Edge lost a bunch of damage, and Relicash Boots is now only giving you a maximum of one charge instead of all three all at the same time. This was a huge problem that probably scared a lot of people away from playing this build, but it didn't scare me away. I made a lot of videos about how I'm not scared. I kind of was a little bit, but in any case, I stuck with it. I played it. It worked out, as you'll see in the video. This is a great build. And man, POE Ninja, I said this in my last video about this build. Oh, I cannot believe that now there are 16 people playing this build. There were 11 before. It's just so small. Oh well, maybe someone will watch this video and say, hey, I want to try that. And maybe I'll go to 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever. Budget-wise, I think I have something like 2 mirrors into this build right now. If I had to add it all up and think about what I could sell the stuff for, I didn't pay that. That's just what I think I could sell it for. Probably wouldn't all sell at once, but that's just my estimate. Obviously I started from nothing, just like everybody else. So just, we're a month in or whatever we are now, a month and a half. That's just how it is. Is this League Start viable? It kind of is, and that's why I just mentioned a little bit ago. This is like, once you get a couple of key components, you can kind of get off to the races, so to say. And then, just like most builds, the more you invest, the better. It just gets better and better, right? But I do think that this scales even better than most builds as you add more currency and more valuable items to the build. And just worth mentioning is that around 10 charges, you start to feel really strong. Okay. Valdo's maps, you can do Feared. You can easily do Feared. You can do Deli Feared. You can do Tormented Feared. And you can do Deli Tormented Feared. The thing that kind of is going to hold you back this league more than anything is that the Merc is kind of filling a lot of role that you weren't. The boots were, now that the boots are not doing their job like they used to, the Merc's kind of filling in for the boots that used to be there, and actually even a lot stronger than the boots were before. But if the Merc dies, then that sucks, right? So, okay, let's talk about the gear. So I'm obviously using an Ephemeral Edge, as I mentioned. I'm obviously using Relicash Boots, as I mentioned. But I'm now wearing a double power charge helmet, meaning that there is a 1+1 power charge implicit from a corruption, and then a power charge on the prefix from crafting through a warlord influence. Excuse me, had to burp. Malachi's Loop shield for 2 power charges. We have a Badge of the Brotherhood, of course, as I mentioned, which is a crazy sick one. I'll show it on the screen here, but it's double anointed, double influenced. I crafted that myself. Thank you very much. I have a really good Precursor's Emblem with +1 power charge, and it has additional physical damage reduction per power charge, so multiplied by 2 because I'm mirroring that with Calandra's Touch. I'm wearing Warlock gloves that are Crusader and Hunter influenced, so that I can make my Bound by Destiny work with my build. So I'm not getting the Eldritch implicits that most people would want, but I am still getting non-vol strikes, target 2 additional nearby enemies with the Hunter modifier, which is pretty hard to get. So those are pretty nice considering they don't have Eldritch implicits. And then I'm wearing a Mage Blood, of course, just kind of like a basic Mage Blood. And then my chest piece is a pretty well-rolled 30% quality Twilight Regalia that has a Fracture. You take 10% reduced extra damage from crit strikes per endurance charge, and since I have 14, I do not take damage from critical hits. I think that's probably the thing that's worth mentioning on that chest piece. So yeah, like 1343 ES, big chunk of ES on that chest piece. So I'm not going to talk about all the skill gems just because you can just go look at POB. POB will be in the description. But the thing I want to mention the most is really just the 6-link, because you can really play around with everything else. I've actually been swapping things around like crazy myself. But the 6-link is pretty... you kind of have to go with what I have here on the 6-link. So, Frenzy of Onslaught, of course. Endurance charge on melee stun. Once you get to a certain damage level, like where I am at right now, God, if I could talk, it becomes a lot stronger than anything else that was here before. I think like Awakened Lightning Penetration was here before. Awakened Multi-Strike support, of course, you can just get by with regular Multi-Strike. You don't need Awakened. Power charge on critical support, Awakened Elemental Damage with attack support, and finally Volatility support. So that's your 6-link. All right, let's talk about the Ascendancy. There are different things you can do on the Ascendancy. The one thing that's an absolute requirement is, of course, Masterful Form. I'm also taking Impact, Overwhelm, and Bane of Legends. There are a bunch of different ways you can play this build. For instance, when I started this league out, when I could finally afford some Grand Spectrums, the only Grand Spectrums I could afford were the Grand Spectrums that gave power charges, and then I would have to wear the Frenzy Rallye boots. And that was a whole lot cheaper because the Frenzy Grand Spectrums were like 30 div each, whereas the Power Charge Grand Spectrums were like 3 to 6 or something like that. So as I played and farmed more and I could afford it, I switched over. Now I'm wearing the Power Charge boots with the Frenzy Grand Spectrums. There's a whole bunch of different things you can change around though, and that's just how I'm playing it. That's probably the ultimate maximum version of at least Grand Spectrum with Rallye boots. Okay, let's talk about Mercenaries. It's pretty much the most important thing of the league. That's going to change around a lot, and it's pretty fun to now kind of kit out a whole nother character, and it really pays off. So I have 3 different Mercenaries that I use for different scenarios. I have the ever so popular Wrath Mercenary. I think everyone's pretty familiar with this guy. Fubgun made a whole video about him, but I have a pretty large amount of aura effect. I have, let's see, what is a 160% Wrath effect on this Mercenary, and so he's giving me 65 to 1042 lightning damage with attacks. He also has Zealotry, which is pretty nice. That being said, I actually don't use this Mercenary very much because despite him probably giving me the biggest amount of damage on paper, I really don't need damage at this point. I actually need tankiness more than anything else, and so I don't tend to play him. My next Mercenary is the infamous Earthshaker Strength Mercenary, who is an Endurance Mercenary. So he has an ability called Endure, not to be confused with Enduring Cry. And the nice thing about Endure is that during a boss fight, like a Cortex right here, or an Uber Maven or something like that, sometimes there's these downtimes during a phase where your endurance charges could drop off. Well, he does Endure, which says something like every couple seconds he's going to give you just 1 endurance charge. And that keeps your endurance charges topped off all the time, which is great for those downtimes. So all of my Mercs are wearing Doriana's prototype, of course, and I'm doing negative lightning resistance rings, just like pretty much everyone else. So they all have negative 200 lightning resistance. The Endurance Mercenary, though, the big difference is he is a 2-hander, and he's wearing Kingmaker. And I love Kingmaker, guys. So compared to the Wrath Merc, the Kingmaker is only a little bit less damage, but he's also giving me the 10 stacks of fortification all the time, so I'm a little bit tankier. Pretty nice. I like that a lot. He's also giving me the Coal, which I know that you can talk about this all day, but Coal is just a different way of getting more damage, but it's nice to have. Then finally, my other Mercenary is a Discipline Mercenary, so it's a Aura Frosthand, or just Frosthand, I guess it's called. And this person is giving me a Discipline. I already have my own Discipline, but their Discipline's level 27, so it's way stronger. This guy's, of course, you're using the Dorianis just like everybody else, but also using Dark Seer, which is giving me Malediction. This guy is also wearing an insane shield that cost me, I think, like 100 Divine to craft. I just copied Captain Lance. Captain Lance was talking about running Voided maps and how he needed to have like the best Mercenary for tankiness, and so I pretty much just copied him, I'll be honest. And it is pretty tanky, but it does still die, unfortunately, once in a while, but it dies less. But yeah, this guy has the awesome shield I mentioned, and he's giving me, I think it's like 2,000 more energy shield when I'm hanging out with him. So that's pretty nice. All right. I'm taking on my tree, talking about the tree now, I'm taking Ghost Reaver. These are large notables, by the way. Ghost Reaver, Supreme Grandstanding. Sorry, I'm saying I'm taking Supreme Grandstanding. I'm actually not anymore. My bad. I'm taking Chaos Inoculation and Zealot's Oath. Supreme Grandstanding is the notable that comes with the Elegant Hubris Victario. It can have some situations where I think it's really good, and maybe some situations where it's not so good, but I just don't need the extra endurance charges anymore from it, so I'm not taking it anymore because it also shares with enemies. So anyway, on my tree, I've got a bunch of jewels. I've got a Sublime Vision, super important. They're very expensive, though, unfortunately. I also have a Watcher's Eye with triple discipline. I have an Impossible Escape taking me to Imbalanced Guard. I have a Split Personality which is a little bit different this league than what I would normally take because it's solving an accuracy problem, I believe. Let me look at it real quick just to make sure I'm reading that right. Yeah, it's giving me accuracy and energy shield. I used to do int and energy shield. That would be ideal, but I needed more accuracy. So that's how I solved that problem. All right, I have an Elegant Hubris 57,860. I talk about this in every video. They're super strong. They're so cheap right now, guys. I cannot believe it. I bought a bunch of them as an investment. It hasn't worked out for me. That's fine. I don't even care. I have like 7 of them, I think, in my bank right now. I was assuming they're going to go up to like a mirror, and because the build's so not popular this league, they're cheap. I think I saw one at 10 div tonight. That's fine. I'm glad they're cheap. You should go buy one and try the build out. It's even easier to try it now. I have 3 Grand Spectrums, as I mentioned. There are the Frenzy Grand Spectrums, and then I have a Bound by Destiny that's giving me a power charge and also like an Enduring Composure thing. And then I also wanted to just mention that I'm not using Light of the Meaning because it's just not that strong and it's overpriced. Okay. I also have 2 large Cluster Jewels. They are both basically perfect. They are very similar. They're both giving me 12 maximum energy shield per small notable. They're both giving me 3% attack speed per small notable. They all have 35% increased effect per small notable, and then one has 4% LE resistances, all LE. The other one has 8 int. So pretty nice. Glad that I was able to get my hands on those. Took me a while. Okay, let's talk about damage. Let's talk about my damage. So first, let's talk about what happens when my Merc's dead. How much damage do I have when my Merc's dead? So let me change that to this, and let's say that. Okay, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm playing with POE. So my damage when my Merc's dead is only 127 million. I say only. I still think that's great damage personally. 127 million damage is a lot. You can do Valdo's maps with 127 million damage, no problem. Okay, so that's also Guardian Pinnacle damage, just to be clear. Now, let's put my Merc on, and specifically my Endurance Charged Merc. And now I'm going to have Perquol's Toe, and I'm going to have Kingmaker. And I'm also going to have the Dorian as prototype gives me a huge pen. And now that I'm doing so much more damage, I'm also shocking for 50, max 50. That's the highest you can shock. I see my shock setting 50. My damage goes up to almost 1.5. It says 1,492,000,000. I actually changed a couple things around today, so it actually went up quite a bit. But I wasn't trying to make it go up. I was actually just trying to be tankier. So that's Guardian Pinnacle. If I switch it to Uber, it goes down to 455 million. So really good. Now there's some things on this that are a little bit cheesed, like Sigil of Power being on stage 4. I don't spend enough mana to really be in stage 4 very often, so stage 2 is more common, and it actually doesn't make my damage go down very much. It goes to like 1.46. Like it's barely a difference. But there is a big difference in damage between the Merc hanging out with me and having no Merc, right? Because it's like twice the damage, basically. Sorry, I said twice. 10 times. It's 10 times. 127 million up to 1.4, almost 1.5 billion. So huge difference. Now let's talk about when I'm hanging out with different Mercs, though. So one thing I sometimes do is I put Defiance of Destiny instead of Perquol's Toe on my Kingmaker Merc, and then my damage does go down to 1 billion instead of 1.5. That's still crazy good damage, and then he's less likely to die, right? So that's good. Now the other Merc I like to use is the Wrath Merc. Okay, so the Wrath Merc, just for big number basically, right? So big number go high. Wrath Merc will give me 1.572 billion damage. 1.572. Yeah, so 1,572,000,000. That's a lot of damage. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't really play with him because I think he just dies too easily. And then I have a Discipline Merc, which I like a lot. And when I play with the Discipline Merc, I get an extra 357 energy shield. And then let's see, make sure I have all this configured correctly. So I do 1.2 billion. So still a lot of really good damage, but I'm tankier. I have a bigger hit pool at about 19 1000 ES, so my effective hit pool is quite a bit higher as well. All right, I feel like I touched on that stuff pretty well. I talked about defenses as well. I just will say a couple other things. I don't use evasion, I don't use dodge, I don't use suppress. My block chance is 23%, my spell block's at 34. I already mentioned I have 14 endurance charges. That's 56% reduced physical damage and elemental damage reduction. Really good. I have 90% resist all, and I'm KS immune, of course, because of CI. I'm curse immune, I'm all ailment immune, and I'm poison immune. I'm using steel skin and frost shield. I've tried some other things recently too. I know everyone likes Immortal Call. I tried going back to Immortal Call today. I don't like losing the endurance charges. You go from 14 to 9 to try to tank a hit. It's really not that big. I'm not gonna get into it. I just don't like it. I'm crit immune, as I mentioned. I have a really nice ES regen at about 2900 when I'm using my ES regen flask, and I have a leech anoint. Do I have a leech anoint? I do. Okay, sorry, yeah. And then my endurance charge maintains. Okay, yeah. So I'm keeping my endurance charges up really well now because I have the endure from the endure merc, and then sometimes I'm not with them too. But I use enduring cry to keep it up, and then one of the huge helps I have right now is using endurance charge on melee stun. So when I'm mapping and doing clear stuff, I'm getting endurance charges constantly. And then I'm also the new thing I have, which is awesome too, is I just said awesome like twice, sorry. The enduring composure I have on Bound by Destiny is so sick. It also have all these different ways I'm getting endurance charges, and it's really keeping me max endurance charges all the time now. So I feel like every boss I have like a way I know exactly whether I have the one merc, a special merc, or whatever I'm doing, I'm always going to be topped off on my endurance charges. Okay. There's some upgrades I could get. I'm only level 99. I thought about going to 100 a bunch of times. I just haven't really put the time into it. If I got a double influence mage blood, I could change my gloves to have elder implicits. Sorry, elder, I meant eldritch. If I had a precursor's emblem that had ES per power charge and the physical damage reduction, I dropped the attack speed modifier. That'd be pretty cool. And then what I really want to try next is like really mess around with specters in the animate guardian. So if that ends up working out pretty well, I will make another video about that shenanigans I'll try. So I think I covered everything, guys. I hope you guys like the build. You know, one thing I will say, because the videos, I've got some time to talk as you're watching the demos getting toward the end here. I've changed a lot as a Path of Exile player. It's been, I think, over 2 years now that I've been playing. And I'm thinking about some of my first videos I ever made. And I was not confident about my skill level and my knowledge, especially. So that when I was saying things, I was remembering what people said and hoping that what I remembered was the right, like I said it the right way, or I remembered it correctly. And now that I play so much and I test things and I check things and I'm playing things, I know things now. Like I'm confident, and I feel good about that. I feel like my videos are better, even though I don't get views, and I don't care about that part either. I don't do this for like a living or anything. I just feel like I feel more confident that when I'm telling you guys that the build is good, I'm not just saying that for no reason, just to say that my build is good. This isn't my build, you know, like someone else made a build like this, I think, like in Settlers, and I think I kind of copied the idea from a POB, but not really copied it. Like I didn't fully copy it, let's put it that way. And then I felt like I kept improving on it. And while I don't think I'm the big daddy of tri-charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer. If you know who Big Daddy Gaming is, he's like the armor stacker. Like he has an armor stacker compendium. He's like the king of armor stacking, right? I'm not trying to say I'm the king of Frenzy of Onslaught tri-charge stacking, right? But I'm probably the closest thing there is. In Frenzy of Onslaught, tri-charge stacking is just not that popular. And I think it should be. I really do. I think it's that strong. I've played a lot of other builds. If anyone has seen any of my videos, like you could go back and look at Settlers. I think I played like 6 different tanky builds like this that were like Valdo's type builds. And this one was so much better. And yes, is it as good as it was last league? It kind of is, yeah. It's just different because you need your Merc. You got your Merc, you're doing way more damage. If your Merc's dead, then you're in a worse spot than you were last league. So with the Merc, you're better. Without the Merc, you're not. If the Merc's dead, that sucks. But you can still be fine without the Merc. So, you know, I've had a lot of fights, especially in Valdo's maps, where my Merc died. And it's like, well, I want that reward at the end. You know, I might have paid like 50 div for the map, and if I don't get that reward at the end, I'm going to lose the money, basically, right? So I've had that happen, and I still usually beat the map, even without the Merc. It just might take a little bit longer. So, I've said a lot of stuff. And I hope you guys like this. I do want to play, I don't know if you guys have seen Captain Lance's animate weapon build this league. It is amazing. I know there's a lot of drama pre-league where people like Rutu and Fubgun, I think, and people were like saying that Captain Lance he's not a real build maker. And there's all this drama about like Snoobe and blah blah blah, people pointing fingers. I think that the animate weapon build that he did this league was a very good example of why he is a good player and a good build maker. I'm sure there's some people that will surely want to argue, but I'm looking forward to trying that build. I just want to see what it feels like. And then it's similar enough to this build that maybe there's a world where I try to do an animate weapon version of this build. Maybe there's a middle between his build and this build. Maybe I try that build and I tweak it to be power charge. I don't know, but I'm going to mess with a whole bunch of that stuff. That's what I want to do next. Yeah, so we're going to do a T17 Ziggurat with Rogue Exiles, and I didn't really show the Scarabs, but we're doing 2 Anarchy Scarabs of Gigantification. We're doing 1 Titanic Scarab of Legends. We're doing 1 Titanic Scarab, and then we're doing 1 Scarab of Wisps. So I'm sure a lot of you out there have played Wisped maps. It's so hard to say that, Wisped maps. And you know that they can get pretty difficult. And when you're doing Rogue Exiles and you're doing Ritual, it gets pretty rippy. So I've actually done quite a few of these maps this league, and I was doing them pretty much just to farm the fragments at the end for doing Ubers, and I thought it was just kind of a fun way to farm Uber fragments and make some money along the way. And I did get lots of divine drops and lots of puzzle boxes. I'm trying to think if I got anything else that good. I don't think I got any Hinakora's locks, although my group of buddies that I played with, we did get, I think we got 1 Hinakora's lock, maybe 2 Hinakora's lock drops off of Abyss this league, and I think they got like 2 more without me. Because I did a lot of kind of like solo stuff, doing Valdos and things like that at a certain point while they were doing more group play. But yeah, Rogue Exiles is really fun. It can be rippy. Sometimes your Merc could die. The boss at the end sometimes is just insane, depending on how the map works out with the modifiers. I did often open maps that I probably shouldn't have. You know, if you look at the modifiers, I saw how much currency rolled on it, or scarabs or something, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it. And a lot of the times I was fine and I made it, and there were also times where, of course, I completed the map, but maybe I died once or twice. And then a lot of the times that happened, that's when I was level 99, and I think at one point I was like 4 or 5 bubs on the way to 100, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do this. And then I bought a bunch of Valdos maps that were ghosted feared. And I think at one point I even forgot to put the right Merc on, or the right flask. Yeah, reflect flask. I forgot to do something like that. And then I went back to 0 again. You know, you guys have probably had situations like that. Feels bad, right? Anyway, we've got Katarina here. I've done her so many times. Oh, that was sounding weird. In the past like couple weeks, and I feel like I can just beat her in my sleep. I know exactly what to do, what she's gonna do. And one of the best tips that I got from my buddy, if you don't know this tip, she puts a bunch of skulls on the ground sometimes, and that will kill like any build. It kills my build that's super, super strong. When she puts all the skulls on the ground, all you have to do is run around and like basically touch them with your feet. So just run around in circles and just touch all the skulls. I hope that there's one person out here that heard me say that saves you from dying at some point. So anyway, here she goes. She's going to die, and yeah. So I think we're done with the T17. This video is almost over. We're going to do the Valdos map here, which is by far the hardest thing I did in the whole demo of stuff that you've been watching me do in the background. I will also mention while I'm swapping to my Discipline Merc here, that I tried really hard to get you guys a good Maven fight where I tanked the Brain Blast all 2 or 3 times, and I was not able to. I was able to tank it 2 out of 3 times multiple times, but never 3 out of 3 or 2 out of 2. And I just didn't think it was a good enough video to show me dying when I shouldn't be dying for no reason. So I just didn't put it in the video. But yeah, I can tank the Brain Blast about, I would say something like 50% of the time. Okay, I'll stop talking. Let's watch the Fury fight. And the Merc's dead. Just want to mention, Merc is dead now. So Merc died, I typed it there. Now one thing I could have done, because when the Merc's dead I lose a bunch of damage, one thing I could have done that would have been smart was to have my Tincture on instead of Aureus End. But I wanted Aureus End on because I was just using it for clear, and usually, I mean, I've done this exact Valdo's map like 30 times in the past week, and I feel like I know it pretty well, and the times where I've seen the Feared right at the first door like that, I think it was one other time. It's very rare for the Feared to be right there at the very front. So I was kind of planning on clearing a bunch of stuff. I ran into them right away, and then I should have swapped to my Tincture to do more damage, and I didn't. So Merc died. I think it's also just a crapshoot, because what mods did the Feared get? Is there a mod, one of the ghost mods that one of them got that killed the Merc, and if it wouldn't have had that exact mod or combination of mods, maybe the Merc would have lived? I don't know, but at the end of the day, I can still handle it without the Merc. Just a little bit slower.
The judgment is...
All right, and with that, guys, I will bid you adieu. Is that how you say it? Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually put, even if it didn't feel like it, I did put a lot of time into this video, more than I probably should have. And I hope I see you guys in the next one. Have a great night, great day, all that stuff.